All right, your time now 1:44, and right now we are staying on top of breaking news. This is out of North Carolina, and this also has ties to Florida. A business jet crashing at a regional airport in North Carolina, killing multiple people, sparking a large fire. Two authorities say the Cessna C-550 went down while landing at Statesville Regional Airport around 10:20 this morning. That airport about 45 miles north of Charlotte. It is closed until further notice, too. 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Kristen Barbarisi. All right, well, we have a reporter that is heading to the airport that has ties to this crash right here. But as we told you just moments ago, that crash happened this morning, just before 10:30. A Cessna C-550, considered a small to medium-sized private jet. Right now, you're looking at pictures of the scene. You see smoke out there. We also alluded to that large fire that crews are tending to right now. Multiple vehicles on the scene. My friends in the back, is this the only vantage point that we have at this hour of this crash site that we're talking about right now? Okay, waiting on, we're getting more images that are coming up momentarily, but that scene right there is what we're talking about. A plane crashing just before 10:30, and you're looking at the flight path as we speak right now. As we mentioned, that plane was actually heading to Florida, SRQ Airport. It was only in the air just moments, just a few minutes before it turned around, then crash landed. Again, that is the flight path. So we're trying to investigate the connection between that and the time it took off, what went wrong. We are also efforting a live interview from a retired military crash investigator. But right now, let's go ahead and listen in on somebody from the scene who witnessed this.
So we don't have a lot to share this morning, as this is still an active event. But I just wanted to let you know that the city did respond to a crash here at the airport this morning at about 10:15. It's been a multi-agency response. We've had city, county, state, feds are here. So we have had, again, everybody is here on site at this point, and we anticipate that this is going to go on for quite some time. Since we don't have a lot of information to share today, and since this is evolving, either the city or other agencies will take the lead in putting out more information as the day goes on. And with that, I'm going to turn it over.
And as you mentioned right there, this is a fluid situation that we continue to dig into. Preliminary details just now coming in. And as we mentioned again, fluid situation, so a lot could change between the time that happened, 10:15 this morning or so, just before 10:30. And what we learn here in the coming minutes. We are working to get an expert who is a former military crash investigator. You can also check out WCNC, our sister station, on the ground there, as they have more information on this.
Yes.
It's for him to, as you said, put himself at risk, spend the money, spend the time to go out there and help in one of North Carolina's worst disasters in recent years. To put himself out there like that.
We also know he just lended a hand in Jamaica.
Yeah. He
like
was,
a couple months ago.
So I think he kind of established the fact that this is something he could do, and he was helping out after Hurricane Melissa, and he's just a servant, in that standpoint. And I think it's great. And Julie, you're right. It's the fact that, after racing, you could go live anywhere, right? You could do whatever. He stayed here. He lived in the Statesville area, flew out of here. North Carolina was home to him, and so he stayed true to that. And so it is a huge loss. And
He's originally from Washington State.
I believe so. Yes.
So I mean,
but he made his home here.
Most everyone thinks all the NASCAR guys are from here. Well, they end up being here because the teams are based here. But most people are raised in different parts of the country, and the fact that they decided to stay here kind of shows how much they love this area and love this community. So it's a huge loss. I mean, it's devastating for the families, obviously. And remember, there's a pilot and an assistant, and there's an ex-wife involved. I mean, there's a lot of people that are being impacted personally, but from a community standpoint, it's a it loss for the community as well.
Especially kids involved in this situation.
Yes, I mean, that's just horrible. Right before the holidays, too. It's just... it breaks my heart to see this, happen right before the Christmas. And they were on their way to another charity event they were doing in Florida, by the way. This
doesn't shock people at all, I'm sure.
So they were on their way down there first, and to do this, they were giving again, and then going to go spend the holidays in another location. So just heartbreaking.
I imagine we'll see reaction now just kind of flood in over the next few hours and days. And I mean, we're in America's home for racing, so it's just hits really hard.
Yeah, the NASCAR community, as you know, Carlene, is a very tight-knit community. It's, I think that's what makes NASCAR so incredible. For folks that aren't NASCAR fans, just spend a weekend at a race or just in this community, and you realize how
you feel it.
Small and family-oriented the whole sport is. And I know it's for people that aren't into it, don't understand it, but when you get into it, you do realize right away. And Greg Biffle was a great example of that, the fact that he was such a big part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlene, do you think we need to take a quick break real quick while people...
We can rerun that press conference back again,
and
just
we're
to give
gonna
us a few minutes of time to regroup
collect
and gather more
ourselves.
details.
Yeah. Again, heartbreaking situation. This is a press conference.
All right, devastating information that we're getting right here in the 10 Tampa Bay newsroom. All of this coming out of Statesville, North Carolina, where we have our sister station on the ground there, just learning this new development. Greg Biffle, the former NASCAR driver, and his family said to be aboard that plane. Among the people involved in that crash when that went down just before 10:30 this morning. If we have pictures, I'd like to show that as well, because there's a fiery scene that crews are working to put out right now. Our team on the ground right now trying to get more details about this situation. But that plane, a Cessna C550, said to be a small to medium private plane. That plane was actually heading to Florida, Sarasota's International Airport, SRQ. But just moments after taking off this morning, just minutes after takeoff, what we're learning is that it turned around, crash landed. Of course, the preliminary stages of this situation right now, we are working to get some experts to give us some answers into what this looks like, the investigation, where we go from here, and what they are immediately digging into to find out what went behind this crash, whether there was some communication errors or whatever the case may have been. So our team right now here in the 10 Tampa Bay newsroom working to get a hold of that interview to find out those specific details. But I want to pull up that map right there. You're looking at that. The area that we're talking about where this happened, Statesville, North Carolina, about 45 minutes north of Charlotte. Again, about 45 minutes north of Charlotte. That is the Statesville Regional Airport, where all of this is happening right now. A smoky scene right there, and definitely heartbreak as we continue to dig into this situation to learn a little bit more about Greg Biffle. As you may know, a former NASCAR driver. And just awful news, he and his family said to be on board that plane, that Cessna C550. No details at this hour. How many people, exactly how many people were on board that plane when it went down? So we are working to get a hold of that. Also, we have a reporter on the ground down here in Florida, in Sarasota at the airport, working to get a hold of more information regarding what took place with the situation, and if maybe Kristen Barbarisi is the reporter I'm talking about, trying to see if she can get a hold of any information regarding what happened with that Cessna C550 went down while landing at Statesville Regional Airport. Again, just before 10:30 this morning. The airport is about 45 miles north of Charlotte. We'll get you more information as soon as we get it here into the newsroom. Meantime, following some things closer to home because we have rain headed this way. Big news for shoppers and people who are commuting.
Yeah, Frank, absolutely. We want everybody careful for this Friday evening because we have rain after almost 2 weeks of dry weather, right? So this is starting up at 3 o'clock. Now, some of you have seen some showers recently. The weather impact alert goes until 8 p.m. tonight. That's not necessarily when the rain's going to stop, but the rain will slow down at that time, and also less of you will likely be on the road, right? The rush hour usually around dinner time, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock is when things will start to wind down. The impact would be the rain, heavy at times, and I may hear a rumble of thunder, but the more important part here is that it's during that rush hour, that evening rush. What you need to do, leave some extra time. Make sure you have the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app downloaded. Here's our satellite and radar showing those showers that are starting to flow in. By the way, we had some earlier rain being driven by the southeasterly wind, but most of the rain that we're expecting for today is linked to this system. You can see we have way more to work with as you look closer to the Panhandle, where they have had rounds and rounds of that wetter weather. We will have some of that, but it has to cross over through our region first. Here's a closer look. Citrus County seeing more rain than what they were seeing a few hours ago. They started off their morning fairly dry. Pasco and Hernando County have those hit or miss showers, as well as Pinellas and Hillsborough. Also seeing some raindrops in far northern Manatee County, but that's about it. I will say that Manatee and Sarasota counties will be on the drier side with this system. Here it is, looking at the European model, timing this out for you. Notice the time at the top. This is 6 o'clock tonight. Moving into the evening hours, that's that front that starts to approach our region. This is 10 p.m. tonight now. Yes, we do have some rain on the back side of this front. You'll see that move through for tomorrow morning. But here's that lift as all that rain is trying to push in with that front. Here we are tomorrow, 5 a.m. And again, the front has moved through, but we just have a little bit of residual moisture that will be on the way. Some of you may see this for the morning commute, but most of you, I think, will be okay. You'll be dry. We don't have a weather impact alert in place for tomorrow morning because it's just that one little line that's moving through, and then we will dry out. Here's that area high pressure on the way for the weekend. So weekend will be gorgeous. We actually have a cooler Saturday morning start, and then temperatures rise into the upper 70s. Nice little rebound there. Plus dew points will be on the lower side too. So it's not that sticky feel that we have outside for today. As we look at the high resolution model, a little bit tighter here so you can get a better look at our counties. Again, this is paused at 7 p.m. tonight, and you can see the heavier rain just off the coast at that time. Pasco, Hernando County, all the way down to Pinellas, Hillsborough County, seeing the bulk of this rain. Manatee and Sarasota will get a little bit of this, but most of this will pass to the north around I-4 as we move into about 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight. Continues to push toward our interior locations. And again, by tomorrow morning, this is just a different model. You can see that faint line as those leftover showers move through in the wake of that front. How much rain are we expecting? Well, unfortunately, most of it will be where they're getting the heaviest rain currently, closer to the Florida Panhandle. If anybody's traveling up toward Tallahassee or Panama City, for example, it will be certainly wetter out there. Here closer to home, we're looking at about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of rainfall. If we gather more than that, it would be from an isolated downpour that moves through the area. You may have a pretty saturated spot on top of your house, or it could be the drier spot, and then down the street it's the opposite, right? So just keep that in mind. By the way, for tomorrow, of course, not too many boaters out and about today, I would imagine, just because it's cloudy, it's kind of gloomy, it's humid, and we're expecting the rain. But moving into tomorrow, this is at 7 a.m. Notice the winds are coming in from the west. We will have a pretty moderate chop as those winds change direction in the wake of that front. They will come in from the northwest, and they will be breezy at times, between 10 to 20 knots. So that makes more of a moderate chop out there. So far, there's no small craft advisories, but we're going to keep an eye on that for you. Moving into your 7-day forecast here, again, we have that weather impact alert that's in place. And then that's for this evening. So you're not going to see it on this 7-day because this is starting off with tomorrow. Tomorrow we have those clouds that will be decreasing on our way to a fantastic weekend. Saturday will be on the cooler side with mornings starting off in the mid-50s, lower 50s in some locations, and those 70-degree temperatures sticking through the weekend all the way up through Christmas Day. Just beautiful, gorgeous weather. For now, I'm going to toss things back over to Frank.
All right, thank you, Colleen. I want to turn back to that breaking news that we continue to follow right here in the 10 Tampa Bay newsroom. A business jet crashing at a regional airport in North Carolina, killing multiple people. Among those people, Greg Biffle, former NASCAR driver, and members of his family. And right now I'm joined on the phone by Randy Reep, an aviation expert. Afternoon to you, Randy. Hate to be meeting under these circumstances.
It is regrettable to be meeting this way, but nice to see you.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll jump right into it. We understand this happened just before 10:30 this morning with the flight path expected to come here to the Sarasota-Bradenton area, Sarasota International Airport, SRQ. But that plane was only in the air for a few minutes before it turned around, then crash landed in North Carolina.
Yeah, it appears, they encountered something immediately after takeoff, which isn't an uncommon time to have an emergency in an aircraft and their procedures to return to the field. And regrettably, that didn't turn out as designed, I'm certain.
I know these are the preliminary stages of this situation that we're dealing with, Randy, right now, but can you just walk us through, as you are the aviation expert, what does this process look like? What are our initial steps as we begin to investigate?
The investigators, the NTSB is going to be investigating this, and they'll be collecting the initial data that they can. And what you'll find that's very interesting is the eyewitness reports of most aviation accidents are wildly disparate from each other and oftentimes inaccurate because the human mind puts things back together. This is a late model airplane. It's a very, very nice airplane. It'll have a lot of information that can be recovered, and these devices are put into airplanes so that we can prevent future accidents. So the investigators will likely have a great deal of information once all the data is collected. I saw, regrettably, there were some very, very large flames. Often an aircraft right after takeoff is certainly full of fuel, but they still will be able to recover a great deal of material to be able to determine the cause.
This Cessna C550, I understand this is a small to medium-sized plane. Approximately how many people can be on board such a plane?
You want to think of it about, depending on the exact configuration, 6 to 8 passengers, 2 crew members, so there'll be 2 pilots. That's a typical payload that you would see in this size airplane.
That said, you said this is a late model airplane, so are we talking audio records as well that we're trying to recover?
And you'd have to know the exact model to know the answers to that. And I apologize that I don't, but it's a very, very reliable, very safe airplane, widely produced. It is a light business jet, very, very nice airplane. Frankly, it's a very nice airplane to fly. And so exactly the recoverable, the cockpit voice recorder and that type of thing, I can't speak to intelligently now, but there's a lot of recoverable information that will come out of the airplane to determine. And I think you'll find that there will be some air traffic control, although this is an uncontrolled field, you'll hear some information being exchanged as we go through the process.
As we compare this to a commercial flight, now we know this was a private flight. Are there any bits of concern that go into a private flight that looks a little bit different when we're talking about a commercial flight for the general public whenever someone goes in the air?
It is slightly less regulated, if you like, but that's really a misnomer. There's far more general aviation airplanes that take off every day than commercial airplanes.
Sure.
So you see them on a much more grand basis with commercial airliners. But these are highly trained, well-maintained, highly equipped airplanes and aircraft operations. These are not seat of the pants sort of things by any means. Is there less oversight sometimes? Yes, that is true. It's a freedom that people flying in private aviation get to enjoy, but that typically doesn't compromise safety. And I don't think you'll find that's likely to be a cause here.
Sure thing. Randy, I've got a reporter on the ground at Sarasota SRQ airport there. So we want to get to her, but can I get you to do this? Can I get you to stand by? We leave it on that note, turn back to you with some additional questions. Perhaps you can provide some more insight. So we'll get right back with you. Big thanks to Randy Reep there, aviation expert. Of course, we'll turn back to him momentarily. Want to get with Kristen Barbarisi. She's on the ground at Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. SRQ, efforting some answers right now. A lot of unknowns, but is there anything new that you've been able to find?
Are you filming? Not filming.
Yeah, a spokesperson for the airport has confirmed that plane was headed here to Sarasota, but as we know, it sadly crashed in Statesville, North Carolina. Our sister station there has confirmed that retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle was on board. Public records show he is the owner of that plane. Authorities have confirmed again to our sister station that multiple people were killed. We don't know exactly how many or the identities of those other people. We do know that this plane crashed shortly after 10:15 this morning. It originally took off from that Statesville, North Carolina airport and then attempted to land a short time later, but crashed while trying to do so at a news conference this morning. Authorities say the plane became fully engulfed when it crashed into the runway there. A spokesperson for SRQ also confirmed that the plane was a Cessna C550. Typically, that plane can hold up to 9 people, including 2 pilots. We don't know the exact configuration of the plane that crashed in this case, or again, exactly how many people were on board. The FAA got on site about noon to start their investigation. They'll be joined by the NTSB. Typically, we can expect a preliminary report from the FAA within about a day, but the full NTSB report can take months, even up to a year. So we're still working again to confirm additional identities of those killed, but we do know that NASCAR driver Greg Biffle was among those killed on board this plane. We're also still working to learn what may have led to this crash. Live in Sarasota, Kristen Barbarisi, 10 Tampa Bay News.
All right, thank you, Kristen. A lot of working to confirm, as we mentioned, this information just coming in this morning, so a lot of preliminary details. Right now, do we have Randy Reep on the line still? All right, I'd like to turn back to Randy Reep with more conversation about this situation. Randy, at this hour, what might be some of the questions you would ask as an investigator?
What you're going to want to know is what caused the aircraft to try to return. The reports I've read and the flight aware flight data that you can see, it shows that it reached about 2,000 feet AGL, probably where the pilots wanted to keep the airplane for the early return back to the field. What was it? Was it a hydraulic? Was it some sort of engine mechanical issue? These are the types of things that will demand those early returns, something more emergent. Statesville is a very nice airport. There are bigger airports nearby with more services that may be a more appropriate field depending on the emergency. So if I was the investigator, these are the things that I'd want to know to start, particularly what caused the requirement to return to the field so quickly.
Is there a set of concerns that needed to be addressed of late that might point in the direction of something like this going awry?
No, I think if you're alluding to trends, I know we had a very unfortunate UPS accident in recent time. They're very, we enjoy an incredibly safe aviation record. It's nationally and historically. So I don't think there's any trend data that can be deduced, certainly at this point. And there's such different airplanes. If that's what you're getting at, no, I don't think so. I think this will be a unique accident to this airplane. And I think eventually we'll be able to find the cause.
Sure, and our reporter just mentioned about 9 passengers on board. I believe you said 6 to 8, correct? That's how many, not on board that plane that we know for sure, but how many that plane could actually hold.
Yes, and depending on the configuration, and keep in mind you got a couple pilots as well. So I think 8 passengers, 2 crew members or so is probably the ballpark number, and we will know that in short order. There'll be an aircraft manifest that'll be provided, and regrettably, it sounds like we're already hearing discussions of who was on board, and that's tremendously heartbreaking.
Yeah, you just alluded to that. Greg Biffle and members of his family, the retired NASCAR driver. We have pictures of him up right now. No word on how many family members may have been on board with him or friends or any other loved ones who may have been on board at that time, but we do know indeed that he is among the number of people who were on that plane. Any additional questions that you might be asking as we move forward with this? And also, how long does it take for the FAA to piece this back together? Because we mentioned that fiery scene right there as we pulled up some of those images as well.
Yes, well, and I think initially to probably manage expectations is the questions will lead to different types of questions, those answers, of course, right? And how long will it take? I think the novice person to an accident investigation will be extraordinarily disappointed in the preliminary report, because the biggest thing that you cannot do in an accident investigation is jump to conclusions, because you can get down the exact wrong rabbit hole. I think you're going to find a very generic, very broad report in the next coming days. And then depending on how complicated the emergency was that led to this, you might have many, many months, or as she alluded to, it could take up to a year.
And Randy, you mentioned novice, right? I'm in that number right there. I am by no means even a remote expert when it comes to aviation, but often heard black box. Does that apply to this situation?
I mentioned that the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. And I think in this aircraft, you're probably going to have one or both, which is a truly a treasure of information when it comes to trying to understand how accidents occur, more importantly, how to prevent them in the future. So I think you're likely to see that. I wish I knew better for you if this airplane was equipped with it. I just wouldn't know at this particular edition of the citation, but those black boxes. There's really 2 of them. Oddly enough, they're almost never black, but they are incredibly valuable to demonstrating what caused the accident.
Invaluable bits of information. I'm getting images back down here in Florida that were shot, not in real time, right? So we're turning it back around. I don't know exactly what the scene looks like, but I say that to say this. I know we were dealing with a smoky, fiery scene. When we talk about a plane like this, even if it is a small plane, I'm looking at it right now. You see the smoke right there. So we received this into our newsroom, I'd say, within the last 2 hours or so. How long does it take for teams to safely move in there and begin to investigate?
I think you're going to see that in shorter than you might think. This is a small airplane. That fire will be under control if it's not already. The smoke will billow for some time as things cool. Obviously, the airport firefighters are uniquely trained in crash prevention or crash survival techniques. They'll get that under control if it's not already. And you'll see, I heard the FAA was already there trying to secure the data so it doesn't get more damaged, and to be able to grab the materials they need to be able to do the investigation.
Okay, so we were getting some more information into the newsroom as you were talking about this current state of affairs that they're dealing with right there. Anything that people should know when we shut down an airport like this? This is a regional airport serving loads of people, and this time of year especially concerns, not to sound callous or anything to that regard, but how long does something like this maybe put it out of commission?
Well, and the runway
effect.
configuration there, I think you'll see the airport closed for quite some time. The priority there is to obviously, in a dignified way, collect all the material necessary to, take care of business there. This isn't like a Atlanta or Chicago airport where you need to keep the buses moving. This is a smaller civil aviation airport. It'll be closed, I think, for a day or perhaps a little bit longer.
And Randy, you deal with the cold and unfortunate facts of these circumstances, but I just got this information to my news desk here. I'm told that Greg Biffle actually helped evacuate hundreds of people flying in his personal helicopter after the major flooding from Hurricane Helene in the North Carolina mountains there. So that gives you some insight into the type of individual we're talking about here with Greg Biffle.
And you may be aware, but that Kannapolis, north of Charlotte area is a NASCAR haven. I've done some work up there, and the community, the sense of community that those people share. And this isn't the only regrettably aviation accident that's touched the NASCAR families in the last decade or so. But they are very much an altruistic, pitch-in kind of folks, and it's heartbreaking no matter when anybody loses their lives in an aviation accident, and it's particularly sad in this case.
Well stated. Aviation expert Randy Reeve, thank you so much for your time. We'll be in touch.
Pleasure to be here.
More news on 10 Tampa Bay Plus anytime.